All right, so it should be recording now. And again, I just wanted to welcome all of you to today's GBCS workshop, Mastering Salary Negotiations. I wanted to introduce our guest speaker for today, Floralyn Melendez Daly, who is a quality and relationship senior recruiter over at Nine Dot. Um, I'm going to have Floralyn just tell a little bit about herself, her background, and then we're going to jump right into, our discussion on salary negotiations. And we want it to be that. We actually do want it to be a discussion. So, feel free to hop in and ask questions. You can open up your microphone and ask a question. You can raise your hand on Zoom and ask a question. But we would like for it to be engaging. So it's not just, Flora Lynn or just the both of us talking. So please hop in with any questions that you may have. Um, but for now, I want to turn the floor over to Miss Flora Lynn so she can introduce herself and we can get started.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, everyone. Hello. I'm Flora Lynn Melendez Daly. I'm with Nine Dot Education Services. I don't know if any of you know anything about us, you've checked us out. We provide all back office support for small to medium sized companies up to 250 employees. We provide most of our clients HR, payroll, benefits, you name it, everything to make a business run so that they could focus on what they have to do, which is primarily high school charter schools. And then we have service partners that provide all the operation and education services to them too. So I provide all of the corporate recruitment for Nine Dot and for some of the service providers. I've been in recruitment for over 25 years. I started in staffing and moved through on sites with large organizations, anywhere from Toyota, where I was on site for 3 years supporting their on premise contingent workforce, to staffing a branch, to corporate recruitment, where now I support Nine Dot as well as some of the services. So I'm really excited to share a little bit of the evolution of recruitment counter offers and just be able to answer any questions that I can for you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Um, I wanted to start with something that is really hard while you're going through the interview process sometimes and you're not really sure about it, but something you should really be sure about is knowing your worth in the market and understanding that you've worked really hard, you've spent a lot of time to get to this point, and you are your biggest advocate. So don't shortchange yourself, no pun intended, but spend time really seeking the industries that you know are of interest to you or the specific disciplines that you're focused on with companies that are going to appreciate you. And that can vary depending on what your focus is, but show your worth. And some students may have a lot of educational experience, but all your quantifiable skills are always transferable. So know that you can put everything down that has to do with you saved money or you streamlined a process and you saved time and money, or just know that what you're doing now is you've laid this foundation. So don't ever hesitate to ask for what you know you're worth, because all they can say is no. And don't shortchange your experience. Like I said, if you're trying to get a promotion at your current company, um, maybe you may know what their succession plan is. So you're thinking, is there a path that I have followed and have I grown? And tracking your accomplishments if it's a promotion within that you want. So you can hold on to those recognition wins that you've had, and they play a role in you presenting to your boss. Hey, I'm really interested in moving up and I really would like to be like, make more money. And what does that look like? And you may know more. And it's always easier to get more money for someone who's already a productive team member. So if you're thinking about that and there's growth where you're at, go ahead, take a leap and ask for it. Um, What else can I share as far as when to start negotiating? Because sometimes it's not a job you really want, but sometimes it is. But always negotiate. Number one, if obviously you want the job, but if it's through a staffing agency, I highly encourage you always counter if you can, if you're not getting. Normally, agencies know what you want, but a percentage of your annual salary is what their bonus structure is. And so it plays a little bit of a role into, hey, if she makes more, if he makes more, I make more as a staffing agent. So I would recommend always asking for that and always let them know your absolute minimum requirement. Um, that way they can find you the right role based on your salary requirements. And whatever your absolute minimum is, put it up a little bit because you're negotiating. Corporate recruitment, as far as negotiations, if you're going to start negotiations, it may depend on a budget or a range. Luckily, we're in California. So we are blessed to be able to see salary ranges so that we can make that decision. Is this something within my range? Is this really something that's going to make sense to me? So always know when negotiating what the minimum hourly or annual pay will be, and ask the recruiter during the screening process what the range is as far as their budget. You can do that at the beginning if you feel like, hey, I really need to know, or you may want to just fill out the role and see if it's something that's even, you want to pursue. But it's nice to know, hey, what does this role typically pay? The history of this role. Is it a new role? How long has the role been open? Why? Because if it's been hard to fill, ask why. Maybe it's a role that they can't really keep someone in. Either it's just not managed right, that role, or the company is growing and it's actually a really good role that's a stepping stone into other opportunities. So always ask and know your employer so you can get an idea of, hey, does this company typically, give, is there a range I can work with and will they let me grow in that range?
Okay,
Um,
quick question.
mhm.
So you mentioned in regards to, if that if they're working through a staffing agency, they should definitely ask for more once made an offer. So, okay, so when working with staffing agencies, i- how much can, the talent really confide in the recruiter? Because sometimes I feel
Yeah,
talent doesn't know whose side is the recruiter on. Is it really with
yeah,
the employer or is it really with the talent? So they may
yeah.
share.
I totally understand. Staffing can be a little tricky depending on the recruiter. I was in staffing for many years, and I have probably one of the organizations that I still talk to that I worked for that I feel is there for my benefit, and knows is more like a regional family owned company that feels like they're part of my family. Like I know after 15 years of not working for them, I actually reached out to them to help me with an order last year. And it was really difficult to use staffing because that's what I do. But it was a solid relationship. And I did feel like this recruiter cared about the candidate and the process and was also someone who I trusted as a former employer. So I would agree there's really big staffing companies that they churn, and their role is to a lot of times is to have every week they have numbers they have to meet, and they will include how many candidates did you bring in, even though there might not be a job. How many calls did you make to try to generate a client and place a candidate? So there's KPIs attached to a staffing recruiter's desk where I don't have KPIs. I do have goals there to have diversity in our organization and provide the best service that I can, because we are a service company, to individuals, whether I place them or not. I want them to walk away with something that they learned from me. And I consider it a forever relationship. It doesn't go away just because I didn't place you this year. I've placed people a couple times over several years. One person I placed 10 years ago. So it's really, staffing can be tricky. No, I would recommend, if you have a staffing contact, that there's someone who is like a family member's friend or someone that you feel connected to, who's going to do the legwork or who has really good references and reputation. So staffing, I know, can be tricky, but always ask, because they'll get it for you. And they'll know not to call you for things that don't matter. Sometimes they will, because they might have to close a deal and they want. So I get it, but they can be to your advantage if they have really good connections. As you know, a lot of them have national accounts with organizations. So they're all over. And so sometimes that's your only foot in the door for some of those bigger companies that utilize staffing companies with hundreds of contingent staff, which is how Toyota was. They would hire, I had 350 employees that were administrative, that worked on site, and a lot of them were temp to hires or long-term temp. Um, and so sometimes, depending, it could be an opportunity, but always call me if you're curious. I know almost every staffing company out here. So call me if you're ever like, Florlyn, do you know this staffing company? Yeah, that can be a little tricky, but they can be your advocate too if they're the right one.
Yes. And just so everybody knows, Florlyn has we've collaborated before. So this is not her first rodeo, as they say, with CSU Long Beach, and she has actually recruited a number of CSU LB graduate students in the College of Business. So pretty much all of you. She has recruited, I think, I don't know what the number is now. It's
Four, five,
four or five.
four
Four. Okay. All right.
so
So
far,
yeah. So just so you
but
know.
I'm working on that.
So yes, okay, but I didn't want to interrupt. So please do share more in regards to, I think you are probably gonna hop into like still, was it making the offer, counter offers?
Yeah, when to start negotiating. So, um, the most important thing really is weighing all the factors. They can be uncomfortable to make a counter, but just know no one's going to do it but you. No one's going to make that counter offer. So you're the one that's just going to have to say, hey, and I respect a candidate's requirements. I'm very transparent with whatever I can be as it relates to flexibility, budget. Um, every year and a half, I think they do compensation where they recomp positions. So I'm able to say, oh, hey, there's a little bit more room there for me, which makes me feel good because then I have more opportunities for candidates. So always ask your recruiter, hey, um, is this company typically like higher at the base? Do they negotiate? Is there a range I should be mindful of that they're typically bring candidates on? And that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It means you're asking the questions to dig a little deeper to see, how's your recruiter reacting? Are they excited? Can they share the information? Are they closed off? Are they not sharing the information? Ask for what you want. And that really also helps if it is a direct corporate recruiter, understand the organization and who they hire and who is their first face of the organization when someone applies. And all they're going to say is no. And then you can decide, it's a little close to where I want to be. What else is there? Okay, what else is there? There's commute, there's growth. The organization as a whole, do they have a succession plan for you? Where do you see yourself going in the organization? Some roles I have that are, you're in them and you can grow into other roles within the department. Some you may be in the role, but the person that you would grow into has been there for a very long time, and you don't foresee that. But if there's other connections within the organization that will allow you to have experience and whatever it may be, whether it's education or marketing or whatever industry it is, if that's your path, then that's important too. Environment is really important. Who are you working for? And again, the stability of the company and their reviews are really important. Do your legwork. Look them up on Glassdoor. Look them up on Indeed. Um, I don't recommend salary like analysis through Indeed or Glassdoor. Um, our compensation team and most HR comp teams will pull from similar things. For instance, they'll pull from the averages for the match of the company size. So is it close to whatever that may be? The location, the geography. Obviously, every state and region has a different pay range. The job description. So they look at the job description to say, hey, this is very much in line with this type of role. Their benefits. So they'll look to see this company with my size that does what I do. This is the benefits that they offer. And they look at the industry sometimes. So if it's education, a lot of times you can see salaries and ranges. So you understand what those ranges are. So those are the good things to think about when you're thinking about, well, how do I even know? Like, what do I even ask for? That's definitely a lot of work to pull up all this. And that's why we have a whole compensation department that does it. But luckily you have California. If you're in California and you are working and staying here, pay transparency, pay ranges will help you to view average pay that employers list. And then you can do kind of your analysis, but it really is not through like, oh, well, Indeed shows this for this average. Glassdoor shows this, salary.com. It's not always a fair assessment. So try not to focus on that, but really focus on healthcare. PTO, how much time do you get off? What does that mean? For instance, can that be factored into your salary negotiations? Maybe companies will add, extra weeks. You can have a lot of healthcare expenses taken out of your paycheck depending on the employer size and offering. So PTO, paid time off guidelines and amounts vary and can be a factor. Is it cutting into your pay too much? Make sure that you're getting the costs included before an offer is accepted if you're getting that far. Review like what your biweekly or weekly estimated costs are based on your needs. Is it remote? Or do you have to go into the office? Some companies, for instance, NineDot, we observe every holiday. So we have like 13 holidays, and then we also have a winter break. So for us, we have a lot of PTO. It amounts to about 30 days a year, and just holidays. That does not include your PTO or your 6 sick days. So that's a whole month they're paying you to stay home, if you think about it. So that may be a factor as you look at an opportunity. And again, drill your recruiter. That's what they're for. Obviously, get the facts of the role and is this really a company I want to work? If you're checking all those boxes, like this is a great job, this is a company I want to work for, this is where I want to be now, this is where I can be, then look at it. Is it close to where I need to be financially? Can I get there? We do reviews every year. So every year there are financial salary increases based on reviews where you meet. That's always helpful to keep in mind. Oh, well, I can get a review in a year based on my performance. So then I'll be closer to where I want to be. And in a year, you have a lot to learn. So it goes by fast. Signing bonuses. I don't see a lot of signing bonuses. Typically, they're listed like educators. You'll see a lot right now because it's hard to find teachers. Maybe in tech, there used to be maybe more executive roles. specific roles that are usually difficult to find will do signing bonuses or relocation bonuses. Um, but always like know that you have the power to negotiate for yourself. Remember, this is your life. It's not my life, and it's not the staffing recruiter's life. And if you're meshing with a company and you know that there's opportunity, I always recommend you have multiple companies that you interview with to one practice. And also, if you find, hey, I really like this company and I really like this one, then go ahead and negotiate with both of them. See which one is going to be the one that really aligns with what you want and is going to give you what you need in the long run, not
So
just today.
no, no, I'm sorry. So real quick. So you're saying that all of these questions you can directly ask. Clearly, that the someone at a staffing company, you can ask the staffing recruiter. But what about the direct recruiter who works directly for the company?
Yeah, like
Ask,
me.
yeah, you can ask all those directly to them. Okay.
Yeah, ask me. So, staffing company recruiters, depending on the relationship they have with a client, they may not have all the answers because they're not there every day with them.
Right.
They have other clients have other recruiters, maybe. So, the stronger the relationship is with the staffing recruiter, like if you hook up with a recruiter and they're like, oh, all I do is um, the Irvine company all day long. That's all I do is the Irvine company. I've been doing them for years. I'm their girl, I'm their guy, I'm the one. And then that's a little different because at least you have a contact, right? Okay, cool. If you get something, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I would love to have. This is when you can reach out and I will have an interest. So I agree. Corporate, you can ask me pretty much anything about as much as I can share. I'm really connected with the service companies that I support. I am not bonus driven. So my role is to build relationships with the client. So I can, whenever I get a job, I do a needs analysis, which really breaks down what are you looking for? What's important to you for this candidate? And I have to tell you that a very small percentage are technical skills. Like, oh, a very small percent, let me take that back, are specific skills that aren't more soft skills, like um, being able to collaborate, being able to, multitask, support a team, provide feedback, data analytics. All these are things that most of you guys pretty much do almost every day. So the soft skills are really important. Flexibility. Um, an employer will offer someone that they feel has the skills and the drive and the availability to complete tasks and be a team player. So when they go through an interview process, it really is, hey, this person's really someone I'm interested in. So if they make you an offer, why not counter? They want you. They're offering you a role. So definitely give it all you got.
Okay. And I guess when is the limit? I guess they will just let you know, like, this is the best we can do.
Yeah, so I had an offer that I recently extended and they countered, which is fine. And please know this is the world of counter offers right now. It's very different. It costs more to do everything. And so candidates are making sure that they're taken care of, which is good. And so I did share with the candidate, in the past, historically, I usually see them starting around the beginning range, but I'm going to ask for what you want. I'm going to ask them for that range. I'm going to ask them to consider the whole thing, just like the candidates considering everything. The employer should too. And so they did go up and the candidate did accept. So I was really happy for the candidate. And this is something that just didn't happen overnight. it was a process, and your recruiter should be able to take the time to say, hey, let's go over your questions. Let's talk about the interview. Let's see what's going on. A good recruiter will do a download with you after. We'll take the time to say, how was the interview? Did you have any questions? Because then you can get a little feel for what's happening. Like they could be hiring, multiple people or doing multiple interviews. Build that relationship with their recruiter so that you can get what you can out of them and get them to support you. That's what they're for.
Mm. And so what would be like a timeline? So once the offer is made,
Yeah, that's a little tougher, huh?
I
I
want to wait
would
a week,
say,
have a second figured out. But so,
yeah, I mean, I absolutely think people should sleep on it if they're not sure. So I'm open to people saying, hey, I'm going to think about it and get back to you. Or they're like, you know what? I've been through 3 interviews and I know this is for me. And that's fine too. But if they're not sure or they want to counter and they want to try to like make sure that it's really what they want, then, I'll ask them, I'll give you a couple days. I had the call on a Friday, and then over the weekend they were able to think about it, and this week we talked about it. I got some updates for them. I provided benefits information, all the PTO info, everything I could to just make it easier for them so they can make that decision, especially if they have other offers.
right.
They can look at that and be like, okay, this is what they're going to give me and this is what this they're going to give me, and then they can think, where do I really want to be?
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
within a couple days would be nice. I've seen a week before, but if it's a really competitive role where I have multiple candidates who are really good and they can't make a decision, then they'll say, hey, I would really like this candidate, but if this candidate doesn't work out, like I had a curriculum role part-time and a candidate didn't work out. And so I had 3 others that they wanted. So if the candidate decides, hey, it doesn't work out, at least I gave them some time to think about it. It is their opportunity that was offered to them. They should have a little time to think about it. Not too long, but
48 hours.
I think 48 hours is fair.
Okay. Okay.
Unless the recruiter's like, hey, I need to know right away because you have to meet like a training schedule or something like that. And then you still have to go through pre-hire. So that's different. But if you're not on a timeline, what's a couple days?
Right. Okay. And so then let me also ask, and please, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in. You mentioned in regards to if you had another offer from another company. So if a candidate comes to you and says, hey, would really love to work with you, but I got this offer from XYZ company, do you require proof? Like, or do you just take them at their word?
That's a really good
Generally
question.
speaking. Yeah.
No, I don't, I don't require proof. And the reason for that is you really don't know where that proof really came from.
Mm.
And if it's their negotiation tool, then um I think it's more of just tell me what you want so I can try to get it for you.
Right.
Um, if you want it, I'll ask. I have no issue asking ever. It doesn't hurt to ask, and you never know. And sometimes it doesn't work out.
Right. Okay.
What else is on my
So
list?
when so when should one accept an offer? I mean, when is I think you kind of sort of touched that, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say once you feel like you've got what you want, if it's the place you want to be, and I guess everyone has their own focus. Some people want to, for instance, for accounting, some people may just want to get into a public, a firm to get that experience. Um, and it may be for a year, but they want to get in that firm because now they're going for their CPA or they're getting their C, and so it all makes sense. They're in a firm. So I would say, I'm sorry, what was your question?
In regards to just knowing when to accept or not to
Yeah,
accept. Um,
just when you know it's right. Whether it be long term or short term, like always know I feel like this is a good thing. This is where I want to be. Um, but if it's not, like if the money is just, oh, I really don't know how I'm going to do this. Then I got to drive still there. So then there's gas I'm going to have to spend. Here's another 60 bucks, a week or 100 bucks a week I'm going to have to spend. So weighing all those things. But if it's really going to cripple, like it's going to be like financially not worth it,
mhm.
don't do it. Everything else it's where I want to be. Oh, it's Disney and they're going to pay me like, it's I want to get into Disney. You can get into Disney through a temp agency and you'll probably make more hourly and you can still get the experience. So again, I know I'm not preaching the temp agencies at all, but they're around for a reason. They've been around and they've been successful and huge for a reason. So if that's if you want to kind of play with things right now and be like, hey, for the next year, this is my focus. Um, there's a lot of agencies that will keep you busy.
Right.
And hourly temps can make more, but focus on, the long term. You work so hard for where you're at. You want it to be the one that's going to make you happy
Right.
every day.
Right. So let me ask this. Now, we mentioned that in California, there's transparency on when it comes to salary
Right.
range. Now, what about the students who are maybe applying outside of California? Like, how do they know, how does one know when you're asking for too much? Let's say you're offered 80K, but you really want 100. Like, sometimes
Hmm.
I've seen where students are like, I don't know if I'm really asking, I'm going way out, way out. Like, I'm asking too much.
Right. Right. I think it's tough because California is, well, it's funny because not everybody gets what they should hourly, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I need to make more money because it's so expensive to live out here. So you do have to take into consideration, for instance, I live in California. But as a nine dot associate, I could live in Arizona or Vermont or New Hampshire or Alabama. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get the same salary that I do in California. But if I were to maybe have this job in Alabama, it might not be the same. So every state is different. The only way I would say you could figure out the difference is I don't I don't think all states do the pay transparency. So it's a little difficult, but if you look at their minimum wages, it'll tell you a lot.
Mm.
For instance, some are as low as $8. Um, and maybe they'll go up this year to like 10, like some are $11 an hour minimum, where in certain areas here, we have $16 an hour. In West Hollywood, it's $19 an hour. So every unincorporated city has a different salary. So as far as out of state, you really have to do a little research
Right.
and determine what states do pay transparency, which I'm trying to think about which ones
I think I know,
do it.
I just know California.
Colorado, Rhode Island, California, Connecticut, Nevada, New Jersey, Maryland, Washington, New York, which makes sense, Ohio, Illinois, and Massachusetts. So we have 12 states that currently do it.
Yeah. I know Khan, I think if I'm hope I'm pronouncing it right, Khan, you have a question. Please feel free, open up your microphone and ask away.
Yeah, so because I know like you say the when we like negotiate for like the minimum for the wages is so we depend on like the expense of let's say like if I live in California but I got a job in New York, do I consider based on, let's say, the median expense of my household in the New York and also like the city itself, or it's just like based on like the average range that most of the people like got the job in that position with that median like salary?
Yeah, well, New York's a good one to pick because they're just as expensive as we are. Um, so really good question. If you, if I moved to Arizona, my taxes would change because I would have different taxes. So your taxes will stay the same based on the state that you live in, but your pay will be New York pay. And to be honest, that's probably the best state to transition to if you're going to work remotely for them, because a lot of the city part pays similar to California, because New York is one of the most expensive cities to live in. But if you go upstate, you have, you know, Albany, and you have all these different locations, just kind of like here, even though everywhere, it seems like everywhere is expensive in California. I'm sure there's pockets up there. Westchester County is very expensive. Um, Long Island. So you have all these different locations. But the good thing is you can pull up a New York job right now and you should be able to see how much they would pay you for the same job that you may do here, because they're one of those transparency states. Did that
Yes,
answer your question?
yes, that's totally answered my
Okay,
question. Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Absolutely.
Uh, anyone else? Anyone else want to sort of hop in and um, ask a question, or trying to think? If not, all right.
What else I have?
So, okay, so maybe you can touch on again. Let's say, and you touched on this slightly, but commonly, where do you in maybe, and I know this differs from each employer,
Mhm.
speaking, if the employer is not able to meet your salary that you want, what are the other areas that you tend to see is more flexible that you can negotiate
Yeah.
and play with?
Um, so unfortunately, I don't support anyone who like has a bonus structure.
Mm.
Any roles that have a bonus structure currently, but bonus structures sometimes can be implemented. For instance, I had a client who wanted to have this director of expansion role.
Mm.
They would build, like, help with charter school expansion. And it's a newly created position he was looking at. But the candidate worked for a university. So I'm able to see the candidates. I can't ask, but I could see the candidate's profile, salary range, because it's publicly listed. So I could tell that she was much higher than what the basic range salary was given to me. So what they are going to do and what they're thinking of doing, if this comes to fruition, and this is because this employer has a need and they want to find talent that can help them. And this talent is a little bit more expensive. So they're implementing a $10,000 bonus structure for this particular person and for this particular role, because they feel like it will allow this person to reach the range that they're looking for, even though they're a little more flexible in their pay, because they want the job to be able to help with expansion. They're kind of ready for their next exciting challenge and opportunity. So it hasn't come to fruition. It was really a conversation with someone and then a role that a senior leader created. So it hasn't come to full extent. Like, it may never, but the point is they're taking that time to look at options to allow talent to have opportunities.
Okay.
And I hope it happens, but bonuses are good to try to add
So you can
time off.
okay, ask for, do you offer, but I know we have two questions from Grace and Denise.
Yes.
But you said so bonuses for sure.
Is there any type of bonus structure or spot bonuses that the company provides? Because sometimes they may do that to attract a candidate. Signing bonuses, I don't see, like before, I don't see as many, but maybe there's spot bonuses in the future. If it's a company that's more sales driven and is a service and provides services and is doing well, then there may be something down the road for those people that are creating activity and revenue. So I think that's probably key. Like as you're creating revenue, you'll have an opportunity to make more money. So if it's anything revenue generating functions, sales generating, marketing generating, maybe there's an option to say, hey, do you guys do any bonuses? Like, I'm going to be generating activity. I'm going to be generating clients. I'm going to be creating this. Is that something? And a lot of times, if you're looking for that type of role, there might be something.
Okay. All right.
In administration, you see it less because it's more of a specific role that's not revenue generating, but you never know.
All right. Grace, please go ahead and ask your question. And thank you for calling.
Yeah.
I want to ask, once we get our MBA degree, how do we ask?
So I think you're a little muffled there, but I think what you're asking is once you get the MBA degree,
Uh-huh.
are you saying how do you, Grace,
Incorporate that.
yeah, how do you like factor that into the negotiation?
Yes. How do you
Yeah.
ask for a raise?
Okay. So if you are currently with your employer and you love your job and you just want to grow within that particular role, you really have to start setting yourself up for that step. However it may be, with accomplishments that you've achieved, quantifiable things that you've tracked and you've grown, holding on to any recognitions you've received, like being recognized, or winning, anything, or streamlining a process, or saving them money, anything that you've done to be a productive team member and you've shown that it's made an impact. Those are the things you bring when you're saying, hey, I just graduated and I did all this and I'm really interested in this.
Okay,
Do you
so
think that's something that can happen?
right. Okay, so then what if the person is like, well, I know I'm doing a good work,
Mhm.
and maybe they haven't tracked, they should, but maybe let's say they haven't tracked all those achievements, those milestones.
Right.
Can they just simply say, hey, look, if is there the potential for a bonus or an increase in pay because I now have an MBA or a higher degree?
Right. It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to say, hey, I've worked really hard and I'm so excited that I've gotten this achievement. And now I'm would like to grow professionally, financially, and I want to see what the next steps are. I don't know if Grace, you have like an internal like job posting board where your company posts opportunities and if there's a succession plan for you, like where you see yourself in your next role, or a lot of times, yeah, they want someone to get their master's. For instance, we have a curriculum manager role. They have to have their master's in curriculum development or educational technology. If it was someone who was, working for Skyrocket and they have been a curriculum designer and they've been working with the team and they help with lead stuff and all of a sudden they got their master's, then they should go to their manager and say, hey, I really want to be considered for that manager of curriculum because I've completed my master's. It's focused on education and I've really been leading the team. I've been supporting the team. And I really feel like I have what it takes. Um, And that's what you have to do. You have to be your advocate and say, hey, I'm really interested in growing. Now that I have my master's, these are the things I'm really looking to do. How can you guide me as my manager to like maybe get into that lane? And that's it. Ask them, what can I do? And just be silent. What can I do?
Okay, thank you. And
Mhm.
Denise and Khan, please, Denise, please ask.
Yes. So
Oh,
I want.
let me get Denise first. I think she's been waiting.
Okay. 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 Okay.
So Denise, go for it, please.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Denise.
How are you?
Good.
I have a question about promotions. So let's say if you're a manager and you get promoted to director role, and they only offer you like a 15, like not a big increase, but you know that the director role is really like a 50K increase. Like, how do you go about
Mhm.
negotiating that?
Yeah, that's tough. So I know every company is different, but some companies will, it shouldn't be just a promotion. Because typically sometimes promotions are about what? At least 10%. Um, did they post the role? Like if the role's posted, you should have seen the range of that role.
No, not posted, more
Okay.
so like, the next step would be
Yeah,
give you director, but like the pay doesn't really match like industry standard, which is like 50K to 60K more.
more.
So how
Yeah.
would you go around, like how would you handle that situation?
I would ask why. Why is it so? Is there a gap from manager to director? Because normally, like for instance, a salary for maybe a manager, maybe a supervisor, maybe up to like 80. And then maybe a manager will start at 90. There shouldn't be an overlap usually
Mm.
because it's kind of the next level. A manager to a director is pretty significant,
That's
but every company's different.
So let me ask this. This goes into with Denise. I know Khan as
Mhm.
well. So is this a scenario where like Denise in that situation can say, well, I know the market generally pays this for what I do. Uh,
Yeah.
is there a reason why the company isn't reflecting the market pay, or and
Mhm.
let me know if is this something where they can go, not obviously not to their manager, but internally to
Mhm.
HR and say, hey, I'm concerned about the compensation.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, it doesn't, whether it doesn't match what the market is or simply you just wanted more. Is
Yeah.
we can go directly to that because obviously people are really, they don't want to burn bridges. They don't
Yeah.
just get people upset. So who can they go and talk to internally,
Yeah.
figure out?
Yeah. So your HR recruiter is probably your best bet who actually supports those positions to get a sense of, hey, I'm looking at growing and I want to know that when I do, this is the range that I would be looking for. Is that something that's within this range for this role? Um, Based on my research,
Mm,
and it may be based on some specific factors, but also is there something else involved in it? Are there other perks you're getting? Are you getting more time off? Are you getting floating PTO? Are you getting better benefits? Which I never understand why executive benefits should be different than anyone else's. We don't do that. But, like little things like that. But as an employer in California, the recruiters should be able to be transparent and provide you with the salary range.
okay. Okay. I know Khan had a question up, but he put his hand down. Then Tony. Khan, did you still have a question? And if not,
Yes. So as the scenarios case like before the Chrissy,
mm,
so I am currently an intern for like, a government job in transportation industry, and they are putting me like on like grad career on track, which means like I'm had to follow some kind of like procedure to learn and adapt with like the concept of the companies and most of like the lesson from the company itself.
Mhm.
So like I got into like the spot where I'm about to graduate and I want to look for a full-time job. And most of like the HR that hosting that event, they always tell me like to talk to the managers to get like a position open in my
Oh,
department.
okay.
So
So
I
they're kind
got
of giving
confused.
you like the back door, like go ahead and they want to keep you.
Yes, but from my perspective, when I'm working in the companies, on my department, I see like we already got enough of like the person who fulfill that position, and then like my manager is still like, oh hey, we gonna need like the data analyst just because like we need to like improve our like.
It sounds
So
like
I
they
was like
really
really
want to
confusing.
keep
Like,
you.
should I open? Yeah, so like I was confusing. Like, should I ask for it, or should I not gonna like ask for it and just wait to talk to the HR again until like the further knowledge? Like, I don't know. I'm at that point right now.
Yeah. So my so my role is based on the needs of my managers. So when a manager comes to me and says, like the director of expansion that I was talking about, when they have a need, then we fulfill it. But if they are really interested in you and they want to keep you, it sounds like they want to keep you and they don't want to lose you because they've invested in you, you've invested in them, and they're willing, excuse me, they're willing to consider you full time. The only thing I think about is um, pay, being fair to the other associates who are in the same role and what their salary is. But based on your experience, if they don't have an MBA and you do, it makes more sense if they bring you in at what you want, whatever that may be. I don't know, because it's not posted. So you really, what you're saying is you don't know what that role is. Have they talked to you about pay?
Yeah, they not telling me anything. They just like, oh, we did more data analysts, and I was like, hold up. So, if you need more data analysts, but we already have enough, then what is the point for me to get in?
Yeah.
If you, yeah, you want to get more, that's like the big question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there's an interest, then you should get all the information so you can make that decision. And if they're not giving it to you, then just continue to do what you're doing and keep your options open.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I guess the last thing I said, then I want to go to Tony. If I'm just going to add on to what Florlyn mentioned, if they're coming to you and they're telling you, like Florlyn said, it seems like they're interested in you. It, if you see that they're making a suggestion that, hey, this is a role you can step into, then I would, as Florlyn said, like prepare yourself for that. Make sure you line up. Um, as we say, get your ducks in a row as to what are going to be your talking points to advocate why you would be best for that and maybe the pay you want. Probably going to do some market research again to see, I guess, what that pay is. If you've been hitting, like Florlyn said, certain targets of the company, been hitting your goals, you're going to have that all lined up. So you have those talking points. You're going to have all your talking points lined up as to why you'd be a great candidate and also to get the pay that you would like to.
Mhm.
So maybe that is something that you can do. But Tony, I know Tony's been waiting a while. Please, Tony, please open your mic and ask away.
There we go. Can
Hi,
you
Tony.
hear me okay?
Yeah.
Tony here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hosting this. I'm getting a lot of different insight. I think the question that really got to me is Denise. Denise has a classic question that everyone wants to know. And I think you can it's about the rebuttal on that question. This topic I'm analyzing, it's everyone's responding as an employee. If you think like a business owner, then you're going to shift it, and your questions would actually make a little bit more logic. So if you came up to me as a small business owner, I'll be like, why you pay me this amount? I just got my degree. And then my response is like, why you pay me? That's Denise asking. And I'll be like, because I can. I just shut you up. What are you going to do next? Like, you're not going to get that pay raise. So when you respond in a way like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, boss, I want to grow with the company. I've gained more skills. Can you give me opportunities to open a new department to generate more revenue?
I think
You want to do that cadence, but you got someone hungry. Denise is hungry. Let's do it. Let's give her a shot. I'm a typical, hey, boss, look at me. They're paying me 50 cents more. Well, then go to them. You're thinking more on employee mindset. If you generate more money, you're going to deserve that pay. Not the raise. You want points on the package. You want the options. So that's my take on it. Hopefully it can work when you go to your boss and say, how can I grow the company rather than pay me more? Rather than say pay me more. Let me meet myself. Hopefully you heard what I said.
yep. No, we did. Florlin, you want to touch on that? And I have input I'd like to share as well. But go ahead, Florlin.
Yeah, no, that totally, I get it. It's a really can be an uncomfortable situation, which shouldn't be, because this is all about you. So I think just being able to get what you need and just, like you said, ask for it. No matter if you're the employer or the candidate, this is your life. No one's paying your bills but you. And so you do have to be like, hey, I really feel like I'm worth this. And I'm curious where you got your analysis, and compensation. What points did you use? Because what I gave you guys is what we use. The compensation points that we use are based on real life stuff. And it helps, like with our teachers and, with all the service roles, we try to match as much as we can, so that it makes sense for people. But how does your employer do compensation? Like how often do they recomp jobs, and what are their formulas that they include, in order to be a employer of choice, to attract, and again, some employers pay less, but you get all this other stuff. You get balance in your life. You get recognition, you get support, you get growth, you get to be trained. So those things are important, but you have to pay your bills, and you should be compensated for what you do fairly. So if they're way below, there's something not right. Everybody's different, but
Yeah, and if I can add to that, and I know Joseph will get you right after this. And Tony, I definitely hear you. So yes, it ultimately the company can just simply say, well, that's what I pay, and that's it, and it's conversation's done. Um, but I think we're not just Denise, I think a lot of people are coming from a place of they're trying to figure out, all right, how do I inquire to get more without burning bridges or getting people upset, or just making the
Mhm.
situation negative. And I think that's where, as Florlin said, it's maybe you're gonna have to shift and pivot and go to HR to figure out, how is compensation structured?
Mhm.
I'm curious as to why is this pay not equivalent to the market if the pay is so low? And in addition to that, I think the person also has to, when you're advocating for yourself, and this I think also goes to what Tony's touching on here, is you have to know how you add value to the company. You have to be able to articulate how you drive business, whether it's growth, revenue. You may not be in a revenue position, right? You
Right.
might be working HR as, I don't know, not HR. You might be working in a company in a accounts payable receivable. Maybe that's a bad example to give.
Which is very important.
Or yes, yeah, every company needs accounting, good accounting. We keep the books straight.
Yes.
Long story short is you have to figure out how you add value to that company and leverage that. I think that's what you're going to have to do. Ultimately, like Tony said, yes, the company can just say it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You move up or not.
Yeah, it's a drag because you may reach that point sometimes where you're like, man, I really like it here. They're just not
Yeah.
giving me what I need. And that happens. It's tough. Um, and that's where you start, looking. You start analyzing and saying, would this really, the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
What can you get as close to where you want to be? I recommend HR, but you want to talk to your HR rep. Like for instance, our company, we have an HR employee relations team. They oversee like a group, whatever it may be, 9dot or whoever. And they know everything. They have a lot of insight and that you can share with them. Hey, I really need your advice. I really need your guidance. So that HR advocate, they have to kind of be on the fence a little bit, but you're valuable and you should be valuable as an employee to be able to share how you feel because you're not the only person. You're not the only person that's had this conversation with them. And if they're significantly lower, then I'm sure there's others that have had this conversation with a variety of roles. So that's a good conversation because you can really get a sense during the conversation how that HR person's reacting to you. If they have all the answers because they've heard it more than once, or they are concerned. So it's worth every conversation. This is, again, I know I say this over and over again. This is your life. It's got to be right for you. And employers, more and more, you guys, because I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and employers are starting to listen a little bit more because it's a different time now, where employers know that you have to meet someone halfway. You can't expect everything. You have to give a little. This is what a relationship is. We're going to be in a relationship for a very long time. We're going to work together. And I want you to know that I did everything I can for you coming in to be part of the company, and you accepted that, or you didn't. It was like, no, I'm not really interested. So go to HR.
Yeah. And Joseph, and last thing I'll say to the question with Denise, obviously it depends on if you're working maybe in a, I think you said government, I'm not sure. If you're working in a government, sometimes they have like a step
Caps.
salary ranges.
Yeah, grades.
Great, yes, that you can't really go out of, whereas in the private sector you can.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind as well. But Joseph, I don't want to keep you waiting. Please do open up your microphone and ask away.
Yeah, hello. So I had a question of compensation and how do you tackle or how do you go about if an employer says, say the market range is 90 to 100,000, but the
Mhm.
employer lowballs you and says part of your
Love that
compensation
word.
is stock, some of it's like they'll add the 401k match, they'll add your bonus. Like, is it right that an employer does that and lowballs
Starts at
you?
90. Yeah.
How do you
I
like
would-
say that like the stock you can't sell it for the next 3 years? So how do you go about that?
So do you mean like, okay, let's just say the range is 90 to 100 to start, and they come in, and so you're talking to the recruiter, and the
Mhm.
recruiter is saying,
Oh, well, hold on. It's a company that I work at.
you work for now.
So yeah.
Okay. So is 90K typically where you walk in at? And is there a budget to come in at 95 or 96 or 94? Like, does it have to start at 90K? And what does 90 to 100 mean? And I totally get your lowball comment, because you feel lowballed.
Right.
You don't feel like this is the is fair or what you should get. And so you ask for what you want.
Okay. So is it
Um,
right for an employer to say that it kind of like a whole compensation plan that includes like health insurance that they're paying for, bonuses and
right.
stock? And is it correct that and then hits that market range, or is it like is your base supposed to be in that market range?
So every department, I remember we talked about this before, and it does happen, but every department has a budget.
Mhm.
It's really good, couple things, to know when their fiscal year end is, because that's when budgets come around again. So sometimes it may have to be, it's timing. Sometimes it's, you know what, we didn't have a profit this year. We have to hire, but we're going to bring in at the 90K, and then you'll get a review or something. So yeah, employers will put the whole package together for you to evaluate.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you have that right to say, it's not going to work for me. I need this
Right.
because I've been doing this. Like Andre said, I have all this to show you, Mr. Boss, that I've been doing. And
And
I've been a loyal employee. Can you go higher? Some clients, depending on where you came from, I don't know what role you're in to where you're going, but I said sometimes companies will do promotions, and a promotion may be 10% or at least 10%, depending on if it's the same job, but another level,
yeah.
something like that.
And if I can add to that as well, just sort of adding on to um, what Florlyn mentioned, I think in a situation like that where the employer's saying, well, hey, maybe you're not getting in a salary, but we're giving you the stock options or
Mhm.
more paid time off, or you're getting full 100% health care, and you're thinking, well, that's great and all, but I really want more cash in my pocket. Um, I think that's when you're probably going to have to ask HR, is there an option to say, well, I don't want stock options, right? Or let's say you're married and your wife is working and you can get health care through your wife and say, well, I don't want health care. Um, I think are these also ways where you can see about bumping up your salary to
Yeah,
get
some companies do like, oh, if you don't use our benefits, we'll give you like, something a month if you don't use their benefits. Um, I don't know how much it is. I don't think it's a lot because I think we just talked about that in benefits. The 401k or the stock, I mean, you have to like after 90 days, I think sometimes it's automatic. Companies will enroll you in 401k or the stock. Maybe you don't want to do that. You opt out of it. Um, but yeah, to put I don't see stock option being part of your salary though. I just see it as an extra that, yeah, it's an investment if you're there for a long time.
and ultimately too, going back to what you're saying again, this similar to Denise, if they're lowballing you, you really probably have to figure out why is that. Particularly if you've been
Mhm.
working there, I don't know how long you've been working there. If you've been working there for a while, your performance is good. Um, you really have to find out why that is. You really have to find out why that is. Um, yeah, you really have to figure out why that is. I've seen extreme situations, not saying that anybody wants to do this, but I have definitely seen situations where people will they'll leave a company, go someplace else, work, and get rehired at that company maybe a year or two later, and
Mhm.
a 20% bump up in salary just because they
Yeah,
once they come. So, and again, I'm not saying that ever should be your first option, but I have seen that as well.
that's true. I've seen that too.
Yeah.
And again, like Audrey says, the grass isn't always greener, but sometimes employers have to realize that they, as an associate is, they're there for a reason and they're growing for a reason and they should be recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just, I know it's already about 6:45. And yes, Tony mentioned, in California, it is definitely at will employment as a lot of
Mhm.
other places, unless you have a union standing behind you, which is very, very true. Employers can run the show.
Mhm.
As Florlyn said, I do think times are changing where you are seeing some companies trying to build a better relationship. I think really the tech companies are the one who took the lead in that. And this is starting with building out these fancy office spaces and gym on site, free food. It's really the tech industry that I think that has led that change. But yeah, yeah. Hopefully the information provided to you this evening, yeah, you found benefit in it. I definitely want to thank all of you for attending. And I want to thank Flora Lynn for sharing her information, sharing her wisdom, many years of experience. I really do hope that you found benefit in it.
My pleasure.
Please do reach out to Flora Lynn, check out Nine Dot, particularly for those of you who are looking to step into HR roles, is that as
I'll
well.
put my email in here.
Okay, so you're putting email, direct email, so you're not the LinkedIn, just contact her
Yeah, come on. Well, LinkedIn is wonderful, but here you get me. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, so it's my Facebook.
directly. Okay. I'll
So
also
just
mail.
another little shout out. If you guys
Okay.
need anything, you can reach me.
Okay, and I'm sure some of them will reach out to you. I'll definitely email everyone who's attended the event your contact information if they don't pull it from here, as well as your LinkedIn page. And yeah, feel free to reach out to her directly if you have any questions about HR recruiting. Florlin's been wonderful, and like I said, she's recruited our students multiple times already. So thank you so much, Florlin.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good
Stay
question.
safe, Tony.
Yeah. Tony's like me, driving and like I do the same thing. So yeah, yeah. All right, everyone. Take care and
Take care.
take care. Bye.
Bye.